And welcome to a very special edition of the Digital Speakeasy with myFace and Edrington. I am joined by the lovely Kim. Kim, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So I told Kim's story several times before on this, using several different names. So I apologize, Kim.
Don't worry about it.
When you're going off of a prescript that you write and you forget to mention some integral ingredients, you start making things up. But only thing that was made up on this live. But yeah, so Kim and I met through one of our parent groups. So the Cleft Lip and parent support group on Facebook, and Ashley and I were in the midst of trying to pick and choose who to go to and the Cleft team. And Kim was amazing and reached out to me and told me all about the team at NYU. And oddly enough, we had some friends in common that we spoke about. And then we had some college paths that were in common. I live in Westchester and she went to school down the block from me. And then I went to LIU and she's in Long Island. She went to both of them. Small world. Everything made perfect sense. And she put over Miss Pat like a young Bobby Heenan back in the 70s and 80s, making her seem like the world champion. So we had to go on. We had to call the NYU team, and Kim was not wrong. They were rock stars, and you guys know the rest of that story. It was perfect. It was excellent. So thank you, Kim, for reaching out to me and writing me and educating me on how amazing the NYU team is.
No problem. I'm glad you guys were happy.
Oh, ecstatic, man. And oddly enough, you got us when we were expecting Harlan, but the road to your Cleft team is far different. So would you like to explain to us how you found out about your daughter's
Sure.
cleft palate?
Yeah, absolutely. So before my daughter Sydney was diagnosed with a cleft palate, I don't think I had ever even heard of a cleft palate before. I had heard of a cleft lip, but I don't think I'd ever heard of a cleft palate. So the day she was born, she came out, and I was already pretty much set on the fact that I wasn't going to breastfeed because I had issues with my first. So I said to myself, I'll try. If it doesn't work out, no big deal. I'm going to go straight to the bottle. So I was bottle feeding her, and every time she was clicking, and it would just go, and it just seemed like she was working so hard. And every time I put the bottle in her mouth, milk would go in her mouth and out her nose. And I asked so many nurses. I asked the pediatrician several times, and everyone just kept telling me it's normal, it's normal, it's normal. And hi, Pat, we love you too. So, after constantly being told that it's normal, I'm in pain, normal after childbirth stuff. My mom, my husband, they were like, no, something's definitely wrong. And I'm like, the nurses say nothing's wrong. Doctors say nothing's wrong. Don't worry about it. Nothing's wrong. It's fine. Whatever. So move on with my life. We're discharged. I take her home. She's on like a slow flow nipple. She's gaining weight like she's supposed to. Everything's kind of like panning out the way it's supposed to be. Then I switched her bottle, and she would literally suck on that nipple for like an hour and nothing would come out. She would have the same amount of ounces in the bottle that she started with. And so it got to the point where I was squeezing it so I could feed her and it could go in her mouth. And she continued to gain weight because I was doing that. And every time I went to the pediatrician, I would ask him, are you sure nothing's wrong? This is really weird. And he's like, she's gaining weight. I'm not worried about it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, it's still coming out of her nose. And he's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Whatever. Backtracking a little bit to when we did her newborn photo shoot. The photographer, who we also had used a bunch of times for my older daughter, so we had a relationship with her, she was watching me feed Sydney, and she said, something is not right. Like, that doesn't sound right. I think she has a lip tie or tongue tie. She also has 3 kids, so she has some experience with kids also. Yes. So I was like, oh, maybe that's why we're having all these problems. I need to go take care of it. But I was like sick of the pediatrician already. So I said, I'm just making an appointment on my own. I called, I don't know, 10 people on Long Island, including a pediatric dentist, like other moms who had had it done. And everybody recommended the same guy to take care of a lip tie and tongue tie. So my husband and I flocked to the city, Manhattan, for those of you who aren't local. We dragged both kids in, just wanted to get it done with, wanted the best for her. So now we're there telling this surgeon who specializes in the mouth. He specializes in cleft lips and cleft palates. And he did not catch her cleft palate. So needless to say, I was very upset when she got the diagnosis and I realized like how many people had looked in her mouth and missed this. And I mean, if I had a trained eye, there was no way that I would have missed it. It was a pretty big cleft. So fast
And was
forward.
it soft palate or hard palate?
Soft palate only, thankfully. And for anyone who doesn't know, the soft palate is kind of like that hangy ball part in the back of your throat, and then the hard palate is that hard part between your teeth. And some babies are born with a cleft throughout the whole thing. Some only have hard, some only have soft, some have submucal. There's all different types. So, and they can cause all different types of issues. So fast forward to 4 months later, I finally switched pediatricians. She took one look in my daughter's mouth and she said, this isn't my specialty and I don't want to say it's a cleft palate, but you need to go see a pediatric ENT. So off we went to the pediatric ENT. And once again, I had a doctor who didn't believe me and didn't take me seriously. And I told him our whole story, how the milk was coming out of her nose and she was clicking and all these things. And he's like, so what makes you think she has a cleft palate? And I said, well, we've been having all of these issues and the pediatrician sent me to you and mentioned the possibility of a cleft palate. So he's like, but she's gaining weight. If she had a cleft palate, she wouldn't gain weight. I said, she's gaining weight because I'm literally pouring milk into her mouth. And I said, why don't you just look in her mouth and then you can decide for yourself. So he looked in her mouth and he said, oh, wow, you're right. She has a cleft palate. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So here I had, crazy, right? So here I had 3 doctors, 2 who really specialize in this, all like not believing me. And so we finally got the diagnosis when she was 4 months old. And I think when I originally spoke to you, there was another doctor that I had seen on Long Island, much closer to me than the team at NYU. And she was absolutely fabulous. I ended up interviewing the team at NYU, much like you, because you got the recommendation from me and then spoke to other parents I'm just reading Pat's note. I know, Pat, that's why I wanted to talk about this because it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I don't want other parents to have to suffer like we did when, there was something as simple as a specialty bottle to help our daughter eat. And, we spent 4 months of like literally sleepless nights because the poor kid was like exhausted and starving. And it's
wild that the excuse, like the thing is like, oh, well, she's gaining weight. It's like, I'm literally force feeding her. Like, you're obviously a rock star mom and you were doing everything that it was going to take to ensure that your child is fed. And a lot of people don't understand like the significant obstacles it has for a child with a cleft lip and palate to absorb food. And it's terrible. And again, we were talking about in the last few episodes of those Dr. Brown bottles that are just game changers and life changers. And something so simple could have made your life easier. But
this tiny little blue disc changed my life.
Yeah. Indeed.
And
sorry,
I mean, no, that's fine. It's good to have these side conversations because it's important. And it's so hard to hear that it's not uncommon because it's these things are easy to catch if the symptoms are known. And so we ended up finding the team. My brother and my sister-in-law, they live in Pennsylvania, and they have friends who are doctors, and one of their friends is a pediatric dentist on a cleft palate team out in like Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And my sister-in-law had put me in touch with her, and she had said to me, go to NYU and go see Dr. Flores. And I was like, there's so many doctors on Long Island. I'm not going to Manhattan. Like, how often am I going to have to go? That's crazy. I'm not doing that. So I kept it in the back of my mind, but in my head, we were not going to all the way to the city, which is really not that far, but I wasn't doing that. And then a friend of mine who's a speech therapist actually had trained with the lovely Pat and Shelly, who used to be on the cleft team at NYU. And Shelly had called me before I had even chosen a team, before I had even chosen a doctor. She spoke to me on her day off on a Saturday morning for an hour and a half. She gave me so many tips, books that I could get, things to be prepared for, things that may or may not happen in the future. And I mean, she was just so sweet. And she didn't even tell me that she worked on Dr. Flores' team. She just recommended him as a doctor. And, I got the appointment. I went in, I met him, I met everyone. And it was just such a seamless interaction. Like, it was literally a carousel of doctors coming in. And I hope that anyone who has to deal with cleft lip, cleft palate, any craniofacial issues for their child gets the kind of service that we got at NYU. And I mean, I'll add to that too. Our initial appointment was pre-COVID, but our surgery was during COVID. I mean, pretty much still in the height of it. My daughter's surgery was in July of 2020. So, we were nowhere near a vaccine, not out of the woods at all with COVID. I pretty much hadn't left my house with my kids because I didn't want any germs, not even a cold, coming into my home before my daughter's surgery, because I didn't want anything to come in the way of that. And Pat too was great. 2 nights before my daughter's surgery, she spiked a fever, and I was like, oh my God, they're not going to do the surgery now. This is crazy. And I called Pat like crying, and she's like, Kim, do you think she's teething? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, teething. And that's
there are some normal things to this. Yes.
So she cut a couple of teeth, which was great timing because she was on pain meds anyway at the time. So that was great. But yeah, that's how we came to get her diagnosis. That's how we came to find the NYU team. And we don't have any regrets. We are we're so happy to have had that experience and for them working with myFace, and no regrets.
It's wonderful, and that's why we are doing this, because your road could have been a lot easier if someone else was savvy enough to catch on to this, or just, like you said, believe you, like something's wrong, and that's why we're trying, like, for all of these episodes that we're doing, we're just trying to raise awareness for what happens in here, and us too. We had this in the height of the pandemic. Ashley found out by herself in her 20-week scan that she was going to have that Harlan was going to have a cleft lip. And Ashley had to come back and tell that to me. And it's just, once you hear that, even though the doctor is telling you exactly what's going on, it's not registering when you're by yourself and getting that information, So Ashley's just sitting there like in shock, like, oh, okay. And all of this important information is being spewed to you, and you can't keep up with it. It's like, you don't have anyone else in the room to say like, oh no, this is what they said. It's wild. And like you said, the carousel of people that come pouring in that all know what's going on and all quote unquote believe you. Like that's, and as Pat would say, that's your second family. It's great. And that's why we're trying to raise Yeah, it's beautiful. That's why we're raising money for myFace to continue to have a team like that on at NYU and to bring this out and bring these stories out to more doctors so they understand to maybe check for a soft palate. It's not just, oh, they're gaining weight, they're fine. Something might be wrong. Let's give it a whirl. Let's see what's happening. And
So
4 months to go going.
That's where I am actually slightly thankful that we didn't have a diagnosis until she was 4 months old, because you guys spent 20 weeks like wondering, what is she going to look like? What are people going to, I mean, I don't know if that's how you thought, but I think that that's a valid thought that goes through people's minds is, what are people going to think?
The fantasy pregnancy is gone, as Ashley would say. And it's yeah.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. And I mean, although Sydney didn't have her lip affected, thank God it was only her palate. If I'm going to have anything, I just want it to be one area. And I know that a lot of parents deal with both and more surgeries and a lot more scariness. But I think I'm a little bit thankful that I was able to spend those first 4 months not looking at her like, you're broken. And not that a cleft does make you broken. It's just something special that they deal with, and the babies are going to be resilient and persevere. But I had time to heal from childbirth, and I had a chance to let my daughters connect and really become friends without me telling the big one, no, you can't help me feed her because she has trouble eating, or I didn't have that mindset because I didn't know. So while in hindsight I would have preferred to know, because I would have loved to have those specialty bottles and not have taken 2 hours to finish 2 ounces. And, I would have loved for that to be a little bit more seamless. When I try to look for the positive in it, that's it for me is, your
anxiety was significantly less, not knowing. Ignorance.
Right. And then
and you just don't know. It's
right.
Yeah.
And then when I did get the diagnosis, instead of fear, I sort of felt relieved. I had this feeling of, okay, it's a fixable problem. She's not broken for life. It's a fixable problem. They caught it. It's early. I'm going to figure out what I need to do. We're going to get her all the care that she needs. So yeah, obviously that fear was there. Like, my little tiny precious baby was going to have surgery, but I saw a finish line, so to speak. Whereas I think I can't imagine finding out at 20 weeks that your child's going to need surgery, and your daughter is your first, right?
Yes. So this and it was wild. And Pat just wrote something as well, how knowing gives you the opportunity to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I are complete nuts, and we research everything. So yes, we did get to prepare, but that feeling of, oh my God, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be really bad? Are they going to be able to fix it? Because we didn't know if the palate was affected or not. So we weren't going to know till pregnancy. So till delivery, excuse me. So waiting for it to come, we know we have the lip. It's like, okay, it's going to be the palate as well. We don't know. How do we prepare for the palate? Should we start talking to a speech pathologist right now? Should we start, are we going to have to worry about her hearing? Is she not going to be able to hear? All of these things and the anxiety, you're right. I would have loved not to have known that. Because I probably took years off my life with the what if situations. Yeah, and
the lip is very different from the palate too, and in the fact that the lip surgery is so much sooner than the palate surgery. So,
yes.
By finding out at 4 months, I wasn't behind. I was still sort of ahead of the game. The biggest thing was the feeding, was just not knowing how to properly feed my baby. And with that, just really having sleepless nights because she would just tire herself out trying to suck on that bottle. And, and then I can't imagine if I was like truly trying to breastfeed as well, because I remember with my first being in the hospital and trying to breastfeed and having all the lactation consultants come and just shove my oldest daughter's face into me. And like, no, it's okay. She's got to and I get that that's what needs to be done. But I don't know if a lactation consultant would have looked for a cleft. I think it's pretty common that a baby isn't going to latch right away and they're just going to keep trying to push. I don't think that they checked my oldest for a cleft when she wasn't latching right away. So, there's like all these pieces, and there's definitely pros to not knowing ahead of time, and there's cons to not knowing ahead of time. And as angry as I am that these professionals didn't catch it when they should have, I am able to see the positive side of that for my family, for myself. And thankfully, my daughter was okay. So I don't have like anger that she didn't turn out okay or she was undernourished, but it was tough.
And did you guys have to use any type of NAM?
No. Everything was internal, so no.
Cool.
The only thing that we had was the bottle.
Got it. Yeah, and like what you're saying, like those first few months are wild, because every time we saw people, it'd be like, "Oh, you guys had the surgery." I'm like, no, this is pre-surgery because we did the taping and we did the NAM and we did the nose stent. It's wild. Did you guys have, like, once you found out and after you started going in and having your consultations, did you guys find yourselves looking forward to going into NYU then, so you could talk with other people that understood exactly what you were going through? Because we actually started enjoying those visits and going down there.
I would say I didn't really have that experience. We weren't there so much when there were other people there who shared in the same thing that we were going through. However, I did join the NYU cleft group on Facebook. So I was able to connect with other parents who were not only cleft parents or people born with clefts, but people who were using the same doctors and the same team that we were using. And I actually connected with another woman whose daughter she's about 3 months older than my daughter. And having her as a connection was like the most amazing thing that we could have. And I guess I was a little bit more fortunate because her daughter had the surgery first. Her daughter's surgery was in May and my daughter's surgery was in July. I think it was about a 6 or 7 week gap. And her daughter was one of the first when they reopened the elective, surgeries.
That was another thing for people that don't know. This is considered an elective surgery, and if you were scheduled and ready to go, you had to wait during COVID because you couldn't get the surgery. So
yeah, I wasn't even scheduled. Wicked. I was not scheduled yet, and I kept calling, and they kept saying, we can't do a schedule because we have no idea, and the people who are scheduled are going to have to go first. So Jason, Dr. Flores' right-hand man, probably hated me because I called him at least once a week. But, to me, I didn't want to fall behind. And I know that I had from like when she was 10 months to when she was probably like 14 months as an optimal time to have the surgery, but I just wanted it over with. I didn't want her to be a year old. I didn't want her to remember it. I wanted 10 months old was like the perfect time for her to have the surgery because she literally like popped right out of it. We had one really bad day in the hospital, which, I'll say to that too. I was by myself, and I think Ashley was in the same situation, right?
Yep.
So this other woman that I had met whose daughter had the surgery in May, she gave me the lowdown on everything that was going to happen. Well, they're going to call you in, and then they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. And even in those few weeks in between her surgery and our surgery, so much had changed based on like COVID protocols. So I was actually able to walk Sydney into the OR and be there when they gave her the anesthesia. And, you know, as hard as that was for me to watch, I knew that she needed it. But the other woman I had met, she went home the same day, and, you know, they, as little time in the hospital as possible. They offered me the same, but Sydney was not ready to go home. So I spent the night, and, you know, my husband just waited in the car outside of the hospital until I told him he could go home, because I didn't know what we were going to end up doing. But, I mean, like crazy time. So like you're already dealing with your precious little baby being put under anesthesia, going through this surgery, and then, you know, everything else that came with that. And you have to do it completely alone. And even though I was alone, like I was the sole person there for Sydney, the doctors, the nurses, like never did they make me feel alone. The nurses came in and said, "Can I hold her when you stay overnight and you're admitted at NYU in the children's unit?" We had a woman come with her guitar and sing to us and do some music therapy. And I'm telling you, 45 minutes of Sydney screaming at the top of her lungs. And this girl was just, let it go, let it go. And I mean, like calming, soothing, and like all through my daughter screaming. And I was like, thank you, because it's just nice to have another adult here while she screams.
Absolutely.
You know, Sydney was too small for it, but they had art therapists come by, you know, so it just, the entire experience, it was, if you're not dealing with pain and suffering, it's kind of like staying in a hotel. you forget about why you're there, because you have so much fun stuff going on. And I see Pat just said, she used to cry on her way home every day, telling parents about the one parent rule. I know, Pat. It's okay. We don't blame you.
I was going to say, if anyone was going to deliver it, Pat, we're happy that it was you. And, yeah, it wasn't you making the rules. We knew that. And she also wrote that luckily the one parent rule is over and both parents can be in the hospital.
I heard that. That's great.
That's super exciting.
I was super fortunate, because one of the nurses who works on the pediatric surgical floor is a friend of our family. So
that's awesome.
At least I had a familiar face in the hospital with me. And when she was done with her shift, she was like outstanding. She came to the room, she held Sydney, she brought me dinner, she held Sydney and told me to take a shower. And that was like the most glorious shower I think I've ever taken. Because, you know, you're like holding this like bloody baby for hours, and she won't let me put her down. And I was like sweating, and I hadn't eaten, and it was an early day. And, you know, it sounds like so selfish, but like I just needed that few minutes to kind of regroup and feel a little bit better.
Ashley says all the time, her me time is the shower. It's like she loves the shower. It's like, okay, I have mine. It's those little things. Yeah, I was like your husband, waiting outside, but my parents spent the day with me, so I went back into Brooklyn to my uncle's house, and just hung around Brooklyn with them for the day. And
you know, I'm from Brooklyn, right?
Whereabouts again? I did know this though.
I grew up. I don't know. Didn't we talk about this? I don't remember. But I grew up in Mill Basin.
Okay, I grew up in Bay Ridge. Pretty much the exact same neighborhood, just in different areas.
Yep.
So funny, man.
So where did you go to high school?
Fort Hamilton.
Okay, I went to Murrow.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
We played outside of your school. That was Midwood Field for some odd reason.
Yeah, because Murrow doesn't have sports, so yeah, it's Midwood Field.
I always found that funny. I played on that field a few times though. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you went Iona and then LIU, right?
I actually worked at Iona and LIU. So I went to Oneonta for my undergrad, And then I worked at Iona for 6 years after that. And I did my master's degree there while I was working there. And then I started working at LIU Post, and I was there for a couple of years before I had my oldest and decided that I was going to have a new full-time job.
Yeah. And that's the toughest gig known to man, for sure. But yeah, so I was bouncing around Brooklyn with my family, and then some buddies came and met me in the city, and I was going to the Waterfront Ale House, which is just a few blocks away from the hospital. And obviously, just typical White Irish drinker way, right? You just go and just have a pint, and all is well in the world. But didn't even get to pour the beer, and Ashley was like, "We're getting released." And it was like noon.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. I go, okay, I got to go, guys. Like, this is crazy. I didn't think that we were going to get out. Like, I thought we were potentially staying the night. And, but our recovery was a little rough.
Yeah. I mean, Pat can speak more. I don't know if Pat talked about it last week, but Pat can speak more to it. But it seems like being discharged now has become more of a common practice for since the pandemic. So, maybe that's something positive that came out of the pandemic is if parents and the child are comfortable, then they can come home. We definitely, I was not ready. My daughter was not drinking yet. She was still in pain. And I'm so thankful that we had the opportunity to stay because we wanted to. Because they were able to manage her pain to a point where by the time I got home, you would have had no idea that she just had surgery. She was I'll never forget her surgery was 3 days before she turned 10 months old. And I was taking, the monthly pictures, and I took her 10-month picture 4 days before her surgery because I was like, what if she doesn't look good for her 10-month picture? Or, the things that are important. And, and she looked so adorable. It was 3 days later. She looked so cute. I put her in this little yellow dress, and she had the mittens on that matched because the mittens that they gave us at the hospital were yellow and white. And she just looked so adorable with a yellow bow. And you would have no idea that this resilient kid had surgery 3 days ago. That's great, Pat, that everyone has the opportunity to go home if they want to now. I don't blame people for staying overnight, but sometimes a baby just wants the comfort of their own crib or just going home. And so I think that that's great.
And I could attest to that. The first night is very stressful.
Yeah.
Harlan looked stoned for almost 3 days. And she was she was so raspy from the breathing tube.
Yeah.
It was and then her she gets congested to begin with. So she got overly congested because we did her nose, the lip, and also the gum notch. So she pretty much had 3 procedures in one.
Yeah.
And that was my wife was not ready for it. Neither was I. And those are some rough nights.
Yeah. You
gave one to me, Pat. You gave several to Ashley and I, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate that we could call you at 2 a.m. and that you're going to pick up the phone. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that reassurance and getting us in there to clean out her nose as well, because that was a complete game changer.
Oh, I can't even imagine having to do that.
Were you on sorry, I was going to say, were you on the last weeks when I said how I was pretty much waterboarding Harlan with saline after talking to Pat?
I think I missed that. No. No. Oh my God. I can't imagine having to clean that out. We didn't have, Sydney had her tubes put in her ears during her cleft palate surgery. So she had 2 procedures done. And the putting the eardrops in her ear was every night, or I think we did it 2 or 3 times a day. That was a fight, all the time. So having to clean out a nose, I guess your daughter was a little smaller, so it was harder for her to fight you, but we had some pretty strong kicking. And
Ashley has her mom in her. So Harlan's got her mom in her. So she was throwing bombs at 3 months as well. She was not happy about getting that saline in her nose.
I know. I know.
But
And I mean, I don't know about Harlan, but Sydney, even to this day now, I mean, I could take her to her pediatrician checkups and she gets so upset being on the scale. Like, that's the worst part of the appointment for her right now, because I think she like sort of remembers being held down and you know, being checked and her head being held and everything like that. And I mean, the doctors at NYU are so gentle. I'm not trying to say that they're not, but you know, they have to get a job done too. So I've had her in a headlock, you know, doing things like that. So that's literally the worst part of her doctor's appointments, is holding her down on the scale to stay still long enough for them to get her weight. And then like she gets a shot.
Harlan
and
remembers
she's fine.
as well.
Yeah.
Harlan definitely remembers as well.
I mean, I can't imagine that. I know one of my biggest fears was, will I have trouble getting her to go to sleep? Because is she going to think that she is going to wake up in pain again? And thankfully we didn't have that issue, but I've read stories in the cleft groups, and, you know, it's not only craniofacial procedures, it's any kind of procedure that a child would have. That's the anesthesia part is scary. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's wild. Everything is so scary. But now, I mean, both your daughters are beautiful. Harlan's beautiful, and it's like it's amazing that they will never ever know that they went through that at such a young age.
So that's interesting. Sorry, my computer's doing something. It's interesting that you say that, because so we found out that one of my relatives had a cleft of, I don't know what's going on with my computer, I'm sorry, had a cleft of the soft palate when she was a baby over 60 years ago. So I had never known, no one had ever told me. And then when we were like kind of in between the pediatrician and the ENT, and like we sort of had a diagnosis, but it wasn't official yet. I remember telling my parents, and my dad said, "Wait, do you think she has a cleft palate?" And I said, "Yes, that's what I think she has. Like, why?" And he was like, "Oh, one of our family members had a cleft palate." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, now you tell me?
Yeah.
So I actually called that relative, and I was like, "When you were a baby, did you ever have surgery?" And she's like, "Yeah, when I was like a year old, I had this thing called a cleft palate." And she's like going on, and she's like, "Why, are you worried about something? Because it's not hereditary." And I was like, "Well, it might be." So, you know, it's really interesting that, like, what if she didn't know that she had it? Like, we would have never known. And it's funny because there were 7 babies born in between my relative and my daughter. And, you know, it was my brother, me, my brother's son, my daughter, my brother's other son, and then my daughter. So literally she's the 7th baby. So to this day, I don't know if it's genetic. I do want to have a genetics test done on her to see, just to know, like, do my kids need to know, like, for when they are preparing very far from now, when they're planning their families, you know, is this something that they need to be prepared for? So I am interested in that. If it's not hereditary, then, you know, our family just, I guess, is lined up for some bad luck. But
yep. But again, we said it even before, like 1 in 700 is not that uncommon.
Right.
It's, you know, and I used the example last week or 2 weeks ago that it's the first floor of a New York City public high school. One kid out of everybody there is going to have a craniofacial difference just by the odds. And it really isn't that uncommon. It happens a lot. And obviously going into the doors of NYU and then hearing all the stories from myFace, there's so many people out there that are affected by it. And even doctors aren't aware to check it, you know, for the situation you went through. And that's why we have to do our part as loving parents and raise awareness and to let people know and do our best, again, to raise some funds for the great people at myFace to try to do as much as they can. And again, if we've hit our goal, which is amazing, $13,000 in almost
Fabulous.
2 months. So if you'd like to contribute as well, it is still open, myface.org/Edrington. You could go on over and donate as little or as much as you'd like. Edrington will be double matching up to $25,000 for this great cause, hitting that goal. So Kim, I told you a little earlier, my company is a charitable trust, but they will double match up to $25,000. So we're going to be raising upwards of, what is that now? 25 plus 13. I don't do math. It's a lot of money. It's
38.
30 something. Yeah, I was going to say 36. Perfect. This is, I could do ounces. I can't do numbers like that, but it's awesome, man. But it's please, if you can, go on over. And something that Ashley and I always say, how are you going to tell your daughter what she went through? How are you going to tell her about her surgery and her cleft palate?
I'm going to tell her that she's a little warrior. I'm actually, my husband doesn't know this yet. I don't know if he's watching this or if he's actually watching the kids like I told him to, but
We can do both. Dads can multitask.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think dads think they can multitask, but sorry, dads. I'm sure you're all great, but
and as always, mom's right. So yeah.
I am considering possibly throwing Sydney a little, you made it 1 year, you're my little warrior party. So I am very thankful that hopefully we are past this and it'll just be a part of her journey that we talk about and nothing more. I think it's crazy, but I truly feel that we're so lucky. We're so fortunate to have two beautiful, healthy baby girls. And I can't imagine families who go through more than what we went through, but it doesn't negate the fact that our daughters went through this incredible major surgery as babies, and they powered through probably better than any adult would. She's going to grow up knowing that. And she's in speech therapy right now so that we can avoid any issues. Maybe that would have never happened. Maybe that would have happened. Hopefully I'll never know. And she'll know why. And, but she will know that she's a fighter and that she could get through anything and that she spent the first 4 months of her life doing whatever she needed to do to gain weight and thrive. So, and hopefully that's how she goes into adulthood.
Absolutely. Yeah, they definitely are fighters, man. And I say that my wife and daughter are way tougher than I am. So it's all and Harlan's only been here for 8 months now, but is way tougher than I am.
You did so much. You can give yourself more credit than that. I remember reading your post and being like, oh, what a Papa Bear. You were so concerned, and a lot of not only fathers, but a lot of mothers would shut down getting that kind of information. And I mean, we see it in the cleft groups on Facebook all the time. People just saying, my 20-week scan, we found out about a cleft lip and my daughter disappeared. And not my daughter, my daughter's father just disappeared and wants nothing to do with it and doesn't want to hear about it. So, you're stronger than you give yourself credit for too, because you didn't run away and you did what you needed to do. Thank you, Dina.
Dina's a rock star. Thank you, Dina. But no, it really is. It's a team effort at that day. And I relate everything to professional wrestling. So I always say that we're like a wrestling tag team. And Ashley was the one that was trying to get pushed into singles. And I was just there to get my ass kicked. So I was just waiting for the tag. Come on, babe, whatever you need, tag me in. You need a break. All right, I'll come on and get beat up. So no, but it really is a joint effort for something like this. And everyone has to serve their part and do it. And you're doing it for the better of your child. It's really tough to pack up the car once a week and go down to the city, like you were saying, from Westchester. It could only
Yeah.
be a half hour, but some days it could be 2. You know,
Yeah.
even during the pandemic, it could be. So that it
Yeah.
was tough, but we were excited every time we went there, and to hear from the awesome team, to see Pat, to see Dr. Flores, see Dr. Chate. It was awesome. We love seeing that crew. We love seeing other parents, and you're going to persevere. You're going to find a way. And you look at her, we tell people what happened, and they're like, oh, what? I would never know. And like, I met this guy literally the first week that Harlan had her tape on. And he goes, I left that we were watching Monday Night Football. He goes, I left that night heartbroken. He goes, I have 2 kids. He goes, and I saw it. Like, you were strong. He goes, but I saw it in your eyes, like the look of concern on. And then last week we're hanging out, you know, we had a barbecue, vaccinated guys. Okay, don't jump down our throats. And I'm dancing around with Harlan, you know, having fun. He goes, he was pretty much like, that's the same kid. He goes, that's crazy. You know, it's awesome. And
it's amazing what the doctors can do. And, you know, a lot of thanks to myFace for that.
Yes. And NYU and Pat and the whole crew. You guys are literally the real superstars. You're the real superheroes. Like, love you guys like family. It's amazing what you guys do for these little babies that have no idea what's going on, and you make them feel comfortable, and you make us feel comfortable.
Yeah. It takes a village, and you guys were a huge part of our village. So, you know, it's just.
And Kim, you motivated me as well to reach out to other parents. So thank you for reaching out to me. And it was that post was my therapy, you know, because I didn't know what to do. And I was a deer caught in the headlights, and you have every emotion in the world as a parent. Right. You're angry, you're upset, you're guilty. Did I do something wrong? You know, like, and then you have like the poor me stage, like, why is this happening to me? And like, why is this happening to my wife? And I just had to get all of that out. And by getting it out, I received so much love back. And then with that, I received the gift of you reaching out to me and finding NYU. So it was great. And I try my best. Thank you, Pat. Happy you're a part of our journey as well. I'm happy to try to do that with other parents too, you know, and I'm in a Clef Dad support group as well, that like just dads only.
The dads have a group without us? How dare you?
We're sneaky. And but you know, like, it's not common for males to be so open, you know, and like to put their hearts in their sleeves like that. So I think it's a lot more comfortable
when it comes to your baby. Doesn't matter.
I said a Poland Spring commercial will get me to cry now. It's just like I'm the most sensitive human being on planet Earth. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's great because it was what you did for me and for other people as well, reaching out and telling me it's going to be okay. I know that's not BS anymore. It is going to be okay, and I could carry that on and send that message to other people.
Yeah, I would say so. We didn't have as many appointments preoperatively as you did because we didn't have anything that needed to be checked. You know, it was kind of like, yep, she needs a surgery. We'll see you for the pre-op sort of thing. But the few times that I did meet with Dr. Flores and the team prior to the surgery, I think I started every conversation or every sentence with, I know that I shouldn't be going to Facebook for information, but this group on Facebook is fabulous. And I remember Dr. Flores mentioning like a surgery that he had done the week before. And like, he didn't say anything about it. He didn't give any information except for the fact that it was twins. And I was like, I saw them on Facebook. I know who you're talking about. And he's like, you know, and I was like, no, like, they're so open. They're great. And he's like, no, like, I would imagine that they are, like, they were a great family. You know, but it was just so nice, like, having all of these people who had the same experience as us. And then again, like, to be able to pay that forward. Like, I commented on someone's post the other day and I said, I'm sure things have changed, but here are the things that you need to know going into it during a pandemic. And that's actually where I learned that you were allowed to have both parents in the hospital now was, you know, she said, oh, that just changed. And I said, oh, that's so great for you, you know? And it's like
like, I don't even feel, oh, sucks for me kind of feeling. I'm just so thankful that now going forward, they're able to. And I completely respected every protocol that needed to be taken. And,
It's wild
you
times.
know,
You can't,
right,
you know,
right.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
I was thankful that they were doing everything that they needed to do to protect me, to protect my daughter when we had to be there. But at the same time, it's hard. So, I get it. And I get that not everybody would feel as understanding as I did. And I guess that's okay too. But, thankful for all of it, and mostly thankful that it's over and that we had our 8-month follow-up a couple of weeks ago and got the green light that she was doing really well. So,
Excellent.
and we still have our obstacles. Sydney has some issues with eating, where she kind of like shoves all of her food in her mouth and pockets it, and sometimes she swallows it and sometimes she spits it out. And it could be related to her cleft palate, or it could just be a 19-month-old behavioral thing. But I have a team, and no matter what the cause of it is, my team is there to help me. So
I'm
really
34 and I have the same issue. Ashley yells at me for doing too much. So it might not be the palate.
Well, all right, maybe I'll send her to you for some therapy.
Yeah. And Dina, you're right there. I'm sorry, Dina shared that there's power in a shared story and knowing you're not alone. Indeed, there is, and it's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, send her on over. We got this. We can get through this together.
Well, maybe she'll teach you.
Yes, touche. I'm terrified feeding. By the way, like we're going on to solids now. I get panic attacks. I can't deal with it. And then Ashley yell at me. I'm cutting out pieces of egg that are like microscopic, and I'm like, I don't want her to choke. No, this is how, like, I'm terrified feeding our child.
So actually, my oldest did not do well with like true solids. Like, she wanted purees until she was like 14 months old. Even the puffs that dissolve.
Yep.
Like, I remember going to Gymboree. I met like a great group of moms at Gymboree, and we would go out to eat like after Gymboree class and everything, and they would like have trays and pour like 1 million puffs all over the tray, and their kids would like sit there for hours, like one by one. And my oldest, like, I'd give her one and she'd choke on it. And I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, she just wanted the bottle. She just wanted her purees, and that was it. And then Sydney, who I was like so concerned about her eating, even before her surgery, she was like munching on those teething crackers. She loved puffs. And then I was like, oh my God, now I have to have her on like this liquid diet after the surgery for, oh my God, you would think her surgery was like 20 years ago. I can't even remember how long I had to have her on this liquid diet. I want to say like 3 weeks, where it was pure liquids and purees. And like, I was so nervous that she was going to be so mad at me because I wasn't giving her textured food, but we got through it. It was all good. I think she was in a little bit of pain, so she didn't want it at that point. But I remember that being one of my fears. Like, of course, the kid who didn't have surgery liked the purees, and now the kid who wants to like chew on all the sharp objects.
Why would it be easy? Why would it be easy? It's amazing. And it's just the little things that you don't know, the little things that go behind it. Like, the difference in bottles, the difference in solids, and what post-surgery and pre-surgery and all that's going to be like. It's amazing. But we are approaching the hour mark, oddly enough, which is amazing. But is there anything else, any last messages that you would like to get out? Anything in terms of brand advocacy that you would like any message to send to the masses?
Yes, I mean, never doubt your mama gut or your papa gut. I'd say I hit a very short period where I was doubting it, but it was probably my own pain and my own recovery from childbirth that made me just say, listen to the doctors, they know what they're talking about. And I think that we all have to realize that doctors, nurses, they're only human. There's only so much information that they can retain in their heads. And even though they're trained to know things that we might not know, they don't know everything. So, my nursing staff at my hospital, they were fabulous. I did not give birth at NYU. I gave birth on Long Island. And, my nursing staff was fabulous, but just something that they're not trained in. And maybe they should be. So maybe my message will get out. And, now they will know that simple symptoms such as clicking and milk coming through the nose, just take a quick look down their throat and see if that's what it is. But no matter what you're facing or your child is facing, make sure that you advocate for yourself and that you don't stop at one doctor. Get a second opinion, a third opinion, and be the crazy lady or the crazy guy.
But if you have anything craniofacial, just go to NYU. That's
yes. If you have any, if you're in the area, or even if you're not in the area, but you just need to find a good team, I strongly recommend them. And I'm glad that Tommy and Ashley were happy with them, because I would have felt bad if they weren't. But
I am so grateful that you reached out to me and put me onto these people. It's it really is. It's the whole message of this ongoing series starts with you, honestly. So thank you, Kim. Thank you for sending me that direct message. Thank you for letting me know it's going to be good. Thank you for telling me all about NYU. Ashley, Harlan, Roxy, that's our little dog, and myself are extremely grateful for you and always will be. So thank you so much for reaching out to us and putting it on.
I don't feel like I did that much, but you're very welcome.
Yeah. No, honestly, you changed, and Ashley can attest. She just wrote it. Thank you. We were pretty much set with Montefiore, and I think I remember telling you that. And you were like,
I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah, give them a chance. Yeah, you were really the one that made us make the call. And I went to Ashley. I was like, there's a few things. And Ashley, I call her Glenda, the nice witch from the Wizard of Oz. She's an empath and believes in a lot of witchery. She burns some sage and stuff. And
we might need some of that.
Yeah. I told her the connections that we had and whatnot. And she's like, I'm calling NYU tomorrow. Like, and she goes on.
I won't say who on here for privacy purposes, but we do have a friend in common, I believe, Ashley and I. So anytime, Ashley.
Fun. We'll put that together. But yeah, Pat just wrote, maybe we should write an article in a parents magazine about the issue of misdiagnosis. Yes, I think that is an excellent idea.
Take my story, Pat. I want to find ways to spread my story for that sole reason I wouldn't even say misdiagnosis. It just was undiagnosed. Like, yeah, there was nothing wrong with her according to these doctors. So,
but I like your comment. Trust your mama instinct.
Yeah. And Papa. Definitely. You did
yes,
good.
Mama and Papa. Thank you. Pat, I would co-sign that. I would bring the three of us all together for it. Yes, I agree.
Sure, Pat. Anytime.
Do it together.
I'll do anything for Pat.
Ashley wrote, family are not the ones you choose, they're the ones that you find out and guide you through. Thank you to myFace, NYU, and Clef families. Thank you, baby. But yeah, again, Kim, thank you.
Anytime.
Power to your little girls. They have an awesome mama.
Thank you.
It was such a blast to have you on this, and it was cool to just be one-on-one with you as well. I was excited to do that, just to have parents that went through it. And I look forward to putting you and Ashley together as well, as I'm sure you guys would have some awesome conversations.
Yes,
also.
That'd be great.
But yeah, and as I say that, see, there's the witchery I was telling you about. As I write that, let's have a brainstorm session. So yes.
Anytime.
But Kim, thank you so much for joining us. For all of you that have donated and helped us hit our goal, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
For those of you that are liking and sharing this, we greatly appreciate it. We're doing this all for brand advocacy and all for the little ones, the people that need some assistance, and all those that are affected by craniofacial differences. Please share these stories, educate your people, talk to your doctors about it. Just hearing from Kim, the undiagnosis of what she went through, it's important. So Kim, thank you very much. And thank you for hubby for coming back early. I appreciate him as well. But until next time, we will see you all soon. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.